This is the United Uprising channel. Welcome to today's show. The predictive programming is running wild. I just covered the movie Leave the World Behind, which obviously is filled with pretty not so hidden symbols and meanings behind it. Now we have another film that just released a trailer for that's coming out in the spring, and maybe it's letting us know what's really coming in the spring, and it's called Civil War. Yep, for the trillionth time, we've got a movie about Civil War, only this time it's not about wars of past, it's about wars of present. And of course, the only reason that we're headed towards a civil war is because we're allowing them to mind control us towards a civil war, because everything that they're doing is, of course, hurting us in this direction. All the predictive programming, all the seeds that have been planted, I've talked about over the last 5 or 6 years ago, are happening. And this trailer shows you a lot of the stuff that I was talking about, and I'm going to play it for you now. But one of the things I want to talk about first before you watch this trailer is twofold. Number one, the person depicting the president looks a lot like Gavin Newsom, right? And I always had this feeling about Gavin Newsom every time I look at him. Now, of course, I'm sure most of you do, greaseball kind of a feeling, but also just the feeling that if anybody could really do this, it would be Gavin Newsom. I know liberals look out there and look at it as Trump. In this movie, clearly the president is depicting Gavin Newsom. That's the first thing I took out of watching this trailer. And the second thing before you watch this clip is to note how the military, okay, the people who are armed, the people who are dressed as military and military, the ones who are attacking civilians, all of them seem to have a lot of little Easter eggs to them where you could actually look at them and know what they do in the bedroom. Isn't that crazy? Because, of course, they're creating a new species of human being. It's about more than the stuff that they're telling you about. And for those of us with eyes to see and ears to hear, we can see it clearly. So you see this man with the painted nails. Now, a lot of the young teens out there wouldn't think anything of it, but we could already identify this guy's politics by his hair color and his fingernails, because they're breeding human beings. They're breeding behavior. Okay, they're creating two separate sides, two separate species. And you could identify the sides based on stereotypes, how they dress, how they act. This is all done by design. This is what they've done. We've seen this. This is basic stuff they've done with human behavior, right? We could go look back at even movies from the 80s like The Breakfast Club, where they use stereotypes and things to herd you into how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to act based on little things that you do in life. These are all basic mind control techniques they've used over the years. Now, we see this with certain individuals, of course, who paint their fingernails. People who, you could see one of the military soldiers wearing these red glasses. I've talked a lot about that as well. You could identify people's politics based on how they dress and act. This is behavioral control. So this trailer is really showing you the brightening reality that they're creating and what the future holds. They're using predictive programming here. And of course, as they tell you in the trailer, all empires fall, right? And I've talked a lot about that too with the Roman Empire and how they're making the Roman Empire trending again. This is all right in front of us, folks. Take a look and I'll go over the quote-unquote Easter eggs after.
19 states have seceded.
The United States Army ramps up activity.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The future president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on?
Citizens of America,
the so-called Western forces of Texas and California
have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death.
Don't do this. But here we are.
Some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
You don't know?
Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
So you look at this trailer, and everybody out there should be saying, okay, well, let's think for a second, right? Right in the beginning of the trailer, what does he talk about? Or what do they say out loud? Well, they talk about an uprising that'll be dealt with swiftly. I mean, obviously, I only have a small audience here, but that's pretty interesting wording about an uprising. That'll be dealt with swiftly. And of course, they are referencing all of us, whether you're a watcher of this channel or not, all of us who are going to be the resistance to this New World Order. Okay, and that will be dealt with swiftly because the military is obviously fully under mind control, as you could tell by the painted nails and the glasses and, well, the preference that these people have. They don't realize anything that's going on. They're very easily moldable human beings, which is what we're dealing with. So in the beginning of the trailer, it talks about 19 states that have succeeded, and then talking about the Florida Alliance, the West, talking about Florida. I believe Texas and California were mentioned. So this is something I've been warning about with this civil unrest, how they're going to make states. Because people, when I talk about the Civil War, and I talk about people, red and blue states, people out there roll their eyes. But they're going to force you into these states. And you say, well, how are they going to force us? Because just think about next year or a year after that, when they start doing mandates again with the magic potion, right? And everyone's going to go, even after everything that just happened, everything that came out, they're still going to do this stuff. It's going to force people to go to different states based on the rules in each state. They're doing it on the reverse side with liberals, too. Convincing them that killing how do you word it here on YouTube? Planned Parent, okay, convincing them that if they're not allowed to do that to a child, that they don't have rights and they need to go to blue states, right? These are all done by design. This is what they're doing it for. This is why they brought back Roe v. Wade. They're using it as a herding mechanism. So this movie's even depicting that, which is what I've been warning about. The Florida Alliance is something to note as well, because Florida is literally a honeypot. Okay, I know there's people out there listening that are in Florida who have probably lived in Florida their whole lives. Well, they picked Florida. Florida is obviously a honeypot. Don't take it personally if you live there. Doesn't mean you're dumb or anything like that. A lot of people live there. A lot of people, went there because they didn't want to live in a Dem state. But I'm just saying it's a honeypot. They've been obviously herding people down to states like Texas and Florida. Now, obviously, we know they can hit them with HAARP and a lot of other things. But the fact that they mention the resistances against the New World Order as a Florida Alliance, and then they mentioned some of the other bigger states, it shows you that this is what this is headed towards. Of course, people will just see this and be like, it's just a movie, right? Even though there's way more truth in these movies. And on a side note, how many more of these movies, Leave the World Behind, etc., are we seeing these attacks on America? And it used to be like we'd see these things like True, I'm trying to think of some movies like Arnold Schwarzenegger, True Lies, or movies like that, where it was always depicted as the Taliban or anything like that was the people attacking America. Now it just seems like America's attacking itself, right? Pretty interesting. So some of the other things that I want to show you is that they talk about attacking civilians. And right after he says that in the clip, what do we see? We see a bomb go off, and you see a church right there and a sign that says Jesus saves. That's done by design. Of course it's done by design. It's a movie. Every single clip, every cut that they edit is deliberately and strategically put in there. For anybody that doesn't have any, who doesn't think much about that stuff, they put their thought into every little thing. Okay, so nothing gets in there by accident. So they have the bomb go off right outside a church as they're attacking civilians. So who do you think that they're telling you that they're planning on attacking? Huh? Who do you think? Oh, right, us. So they tell us and they show us, right, that, which side are you on in this civil war? Oh, their side? Well, of course, which side are you on? The guy with the red glasses who we could tell is a Democrat, of course, because you could tell by their behavior, their narcissistic behavior, the way they dress, the way they act. Okay, people don't realize this. They're formulating behaviors. This is what BlackRock and these big corporations have been doing for years. That's why you could look at somebody and know what they do, what their voting is, what they would vote on, and what their politics are, I should say. They're the ones creating this, and then everybody falls in line. So they tell us that all empires fall, of course, and this is what's coming. Jesus saves. You see the people with the, dressed a certain way. They talk about journalists. Okay, any journalist that goes to D.C. will be killed. Any journalist. Well, they're really talking about us in this inverted world. They're talking about anybody that's trying to get real news out there. Okay, because let's not pretend like in a civil war that there isn't going to be media. Of course there is, because that's what's needed to hurt everybody. But when the real journalists they're referencing are people like me and you, actually trying to take pictures, show video of what's really going on, and they're calling them journalists, and they're saying anybody who comes in here and shows what's really going on is going to be killed. Sound familiar? Yeah. Okay, so as they show you the Civil War, another thing to note is there's a huge overhead shot. Okay, there's shots of where you could depict that it's the military tents, and there's also shots where you could see that's clearly looking more and more like a FEMA camp, a total control FEMA camp, where civilians who are rogue and on the loose are all getting herded into their FEMA camps, right? And then I thought it was very interesting is the ending of it, right? As he's pledging his oath to America, they show us the Washington Monument. That is all done by design, of course. So for some of you that are new, I'll just give you a quick briefing on the Washington Monument, what it stands for, because you probably don't even know. Some of you do. Some of my first videos were on it. And of course, Google has changed some of the search engines so it doesn't show up specifically the measurements of that monument. So what does the monument stand for? The monument stands for Baal Shaft. Okay, it's phallus worship. This is Egyptian worship. And of course, Baal, the deity, or the Baal in the Bible, Satan in the child sacrifice, right? In the Bible, Baal worship, right? So it's right there, right outside of Congress. We have that. And of course, the measurements are what is important, because you can find it in some places like Encyclopedia Britannica, which hasn't changed it yet. So some of the other outlets, like the government websites, have changed the dimensions, but I'm telling you right now, it's always shown as 555.5 feet tall and 55.5 feet wide. Okay, reflecting the measurement. Some people go, well, why is it 555.5 feet? Well, because they couldn't really put it the feet that they wanted to, but in inches, 555.5 feet converts to 6,666. Okay, 666 inches, 6,666 inches. 55.5 feet, the base is 666 inches. Those are the measurements. That's the thing that wakes people up. And they've actually scrubbed the government websites to make it say that it's 555 feet now, which is 6,600 inches. Okay? So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that it's a satanic monument, and they don't want, once they realize that people like me were helping people wake up to the measurements of it and how feet convert to inches is 666, they changed it so it's 6,600, but it's really 555.5 feet. Okay, this is from Encyclopedia Britannica, which hasn't changed it yet. They'll probably get a notification after this video to change it. So get a screenshot while you can, and they'll tell you it's 555 feet. Regardless, if they came out and told you that it was, and of course, we do measurements mainly in this country in feet and yards. So if they came out and said it was 666 feet tall, people would be suspicious. But since it's 555, they know people aren't going to, find out and convert it into inches. But that's what it is, and it's an Egyptian symbol that goes back to Baal worship. It's all over the world. You can find it in very important places to them. And of course, there are lots of monuments here that I've covered. But back to the video, because I thought it was very apropos, as they say, that they ended the trailer with a shot on the Washington Monument, because we're all taught to believe the Washington Monument, oh, it's a symbol of America. Oh, man, America's under attack. They're showing D.C. buildings blowing up, et cetera, while the Washington Monument stands. Yeah, it stands because it's Baal Shaft. They ain't going to blow that thing up. Well, even if they do blow their own monuments up. They don't care. They take their statues of Freemasons down. They took down the Georgia Guidestones. So there it is for you right there, telling you who's the author of confusion. Their author, Satan, who is really the person, the architect behind this civil war that they are creating through mind control. So this is a frightening trailer. It's frightening because we see in the beginning, everything that I've been talking about, right? More and more movies are coming out talking about what? They're talking about not just civil war. They're talking about chaos. They're talking about grid shutdowns, right? They're talking about military turning on civilians. These are the types of things that we all need to be aware of. Like the video that I just did for Leave the World Behind, they give you the illusion, they're like dropping pamphlets from the sky that it's Korea or it's Boogeyman somewhere else. And it's very clear that it's your own government that's doing it, right? Well, even here they're telling you, well, it's the civilians that are doing it. It's the civilians that have turned on each other. But it looks like the militarized Democratic Party, right? In this trailer, of course, you could tell it's Democrat. They don't have to announce it because you could see the fingernails, the glasses, so they're telling you without telling you, in other words, right? The guy's clearly not depicting Trump. He's depicting Newsom as the president. And then, of course, he's talking about an attack on any type of uprising and who's the new terrorist that they've created in everybody's mind. Oh, right, conspiracy theorists or people like me and you, people that used to get laughed off. 5 years ago, it was just like, oh, you believe in that stuff? Oh, I don't care, whatever. That's your thing. Now it's like, oh, what? And what have they done to do that? Well, they've lumped it all in with Donald Trump, with Q. All these things are done by design. So people hear me, they automatically lump me in instead of realizing that I'm telling you that both sides are fully rigged. That's one of the reasons that I'm fully taken down over and over again, is because I don't keep you in the left-right divide. They allow the alt-right to exist because the alt-right serves the purpose of keeping you stuck in the alt-right. They are going to herd you how they want to herd you. They're going to use all of these alt-right puppets, Daily Wire, etc., Russell Brand, to herd you where they need to herd you. And this is what it looks like at the end. They say it's coming in spring of 2024, the movie, but in IMAX, but it might be coming to a town near you in 2024 of the spring. Because we know something's coming. It's very, very clear. And the predictive program, they've done it over and over again. They show us this stuff ahead of time. People still, even when it happens, they still tell you you're crazy, right? They won't admit to it. Why? Because they've created a society of narcissists. A lot of those narcissists paint their nails and have glasses on that are red and look like complete fools and don't realize their behavior is being engineered by the government, right? They think they're being rebels by acting this way. They have no brain in their head. And that we have to pull people out of this. They have to realize that they're the ones causing the division amongst us. They're the ones doing this. And that's the blueprint that they're showing you right there for what they want. This isn't them warning you. This is them telling you. Now, people see this like they're warning us. If we don't get along, this is what it's going to come to. They're telling you that you're not going to break your mind control. And this is what the future looks like. So be ready for it. Right? This is what they do. It's predictive programming over and over and over again. So the obelisk ends the whole thing, identifying the identity politics with how people look. You could tell they're real journalists being killed in FEMA camps, rounded up. Real journalists being killed. They go to D.C. at FEMA camps all over the place. And the obelisk, right? Obelisk is always one of the funniest ones. It's one of the easiest ones to wake people up to. Tell us why it's 555.5 feet, right? Why is that? Nobody asked why that, the big layer, whatever it's called. Can't think of it off the top of my head. The mirror reflection pond that's right next to it. They're like, oh, isn't that pretty, right? As above, so below. The reflection off of the water. This is all occult crap right in front of our faces. That's what we live in. We live in modern day Babylon, right? Or as some believe, mystery Babylon. And we have all these Egyptian statues and monuments to prove it. You even have the one that we're supposed to, the Washington Monument stands for freedom, does it? To me, when I see obelisk, I know exactly what it stands for. It stands for ball shaft, phallus worship. And the fact that it's 555.5 feet tall, which is 6,666 inches, is all that anybody really should need to know about what's going on. So this is the new trailer, folks, Civil War. But they're not trying to tell you anything with Gavin Newsom looking president, etc., about what the future holds. It's just art. It's all just art, right? We're not supposed to think anything of it. And if you do actually think, well, you're a conspiracy theorist and a threat for thinking. That's the world we live in. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hope you're all doing well. A reminder, sub to my backup channel now if you haven't. I have new content up over there. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's linked below. I just put up a couple of new videos that a lot of people haven't watched yet, so I definitely recommend you do it. Now, if you haven't yet, because this channel is close to going bye-bye again, well, once it gets one, it's like dominoes. So I already got one. Next thing you know, it'll be 2, 3, and like licks in a lollipop. How many strikes does it take to get rid of this guy? Well, infinity, because I keep coming back. Thanks again, everybody. God bless all of you and your families.